Hey, Kimberly. My name's John. I'm the piano tuner. And this is a beautiful time machine of a piano here. I haven't looked up the serial number or anything, but I'm guessing 1850s, 1860s, which is incredible. So this piano, the lid hinges are misaligned. I was able to manufacture a pin for the left-hand hinge out of unused scrap metal in my tool case. I may or may not be able to show you that, and I'm kind of flying blind with the camera here, but you can see that little brass circle here. This is the piece of scrap wire that I was able to thread. Because this hinge is aligned, that wasn't an issue. However, on the other side here, this hinge is badly misaligned. Again, I'm flying blind here. I kind of think I can see what's going on. And even with a bunch of tapping, lifting, re-aiming, I can't actually get that hinge to line up. So this tabletop piece here, if we just take out the manufactured pin I put in the other, and we can lift this whole lid off and put it somewhere in the living room, but it is definitely a two-person lift. And I can't lean this lid up in order to gain access to some of the internal parts. This, like I said, this is like a time machine, so the piano was still evolving when this was put together. And at the time, I have to talk with my hands here. All right. So the touch response mechanism of a piano, even from this era, the touch response mechanism is basically a miniature catapult. You're shooting the hammer at the string and catching and reloading it. You have to be out of the way or the string has no room to ring. And that string will just keep ringing unless it is muted. So one of the guiding principles of the instrument is the dampers, something to silence the wire once your finger comes off the key. On a modern piano, at the back of the action is the whole touch response mechanism, all the touch response mechanisms. The back of the action on a contemporary piano, basically the back of the key lifts a damper under lever that's attached to the instrument behind all the keys. And the dampers themselves just hang on the strings. So you could imagine a felt block here, and it's being activated by the back of the key. We're playing, it's ringing, our finger comes off, oh, we're muting that wire again. This force of gravity. And your piano, which is typical for squares of this era, the damper mechanism is a little more complicated and is actually in the way of taking the action out unless we remove a bunch of individual damper rods. So we're still trying to do the same thing. And in this case, we don't have a damper hanging on the wire. We have dampers that pivot off the wire, right? So no big deal. As long as gravity is still allowing them to mute the wire, they can perform their function. But in order to activate this lift, there is a piece of wire, just a straight piece of wire, that lifts up in order to make that pivot happen. Now, in a normal grand piano, when I need to remove the action, because the damper assembly is attached to the back of the actual key bed, there's no interference with parts. These keys can pull straight out and the damper under lever just sits there. With yours, there's these wires, and if I pull the keys out, I'm going to bend the wire. It's also because of the age of the piano, although I can't visually verify it, I can tell you from 1850 that those rods have indented into their muting felt on the back of the key. So not only would we be bending the wire, we'd probably be scraping and or cutting into the damper felt, or excuse me, the key end felt that's lifting that wire. So when you deal with a square, you got to take the lid all the way up, and then you got to lift out these individual dampers. You have to take out the whole damper assembly. This I can show you. This is the damper assembly. Again, I can't lift the lid to show you more of it. Flying blind here. These are the dampers. They are pivoting up. How can I activate that? I'm in the way of the camera. So you can see when I slowly execute that key, that damper is pivoting up. And we may be able to see, forgive the upside downness of it, see that metal rod rising on the back there? All those have to come out. So first the lid is up or off the instrument. Then we're removing the entire damper assembly, which is delicately, wonderfully vulnerable. And then we have to remove all those individual lift rods and keep them in order and place them aside. At which point the action can come out so that we can address our concerns internally. And I can see at least one jack on this. This D note has a jack which is just no longer engaged underneath the components. And I can't tell why from here. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, but it is a time machine. And there's no way around it. So I'm kind of paralyzed just by the lack of a pin on your lid. I may be able to come back tomorrow with my son in the afternoon, or if you're home, the two of us may be able to lift this lid and place it somewhere else in the room. I have to verify with my wife that she doesn't mind if I offer a service visit on Saturday. Normally it's not ideal, but I'm kind of stuck at this point for the instrument. I am going to continue to wrestle with that pin. I see the piano is on those little glider pads, so I may be able to move the instrument away from the wall enough to tap a little more aggressively on the pin and see if I can re-aim it. But I may just be paralyzed by a very simple part today, which is frustrating. And I don't want to leave the instrument in a lurch, so I will endeavor to fit you in as quickly as possible. I can't guarantee that Saturday will work. All right, I'm going to try to upload this video and send you the link, and then we'll be in touch and figure out how to move forward. Thanks.